Assalamu alaikum.
Substances that increase the rate of chemical reaction and is not changed by the reaction, that is catalysts remain unchanged and they increase the rate of chemical reaction. You should know about the definition of this catalyst. And then specificity of enzyme, always remember that enzymes are complementary in shape to the substrate, and they have active site which are complementary to the shape of the substrate, and substrate will fit into the enzyme and form what? Enzyme substrate complex. Okay. Now effect of change in investigate, this will come in paper 4 again. Okay. Change in temperature, pH, in terms of kinetic energy, shape and fit, denaturation and frequency. As we increase the temperature, the kinetic energy of the particle will increase. It will keep on increasing until optimum temperature is achieved. Now why it will increasing? When the kinetic energy of the particle increase, then there will be more collision between the substrate and the enzyme, and there will be more enzyme substrate complex formation. And when it reaches to the optimum temperature and beyond the optimum temperature, what happen? Enzyme get denatured, lose their active site, and substrate can no longer fit into it. Okay. Now then plant nutrition, photosynthesis. You should know about the definition of photosynthesis. What happened in photosynthesis? Photosynthesis, it happens in green plant in which the chlorophyll, it traps the sunlight and convert it into chemical energy, which is used to fix carbon dioxide into glucose molecule by photosynthesis. Now you should know about the chemical equation for photosynthesis. What is the chemical equation for photosynthesis? 6 carbon dioxide plus 6 water molecule in the presence of chlorophyll, it will form what? C6H12O6 plus 6 oxygen molecule. Okay, no need to write down water. Okay. Effect of varying light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration and temperature on the rate of photosynthesis. I'm just telling you about the limiting factor. Just one example. For example, if we increase the light intensity by keeping the other factors constant, if we increase the light intensity by keeping the other factors, means temperature constant and carbon dioxide concentration constant, if we increase the light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis will also increase up to certain extent. Beyond that extent, light intensity is no more, beyond x, light intensity is no more the limiting factor. Now the limiting factor, the rate of photosynthesis, is controlled by some other factor. For example, if over here the concentration of carbon dioxide is 0.03% carbon dioxide and temperature was, let's say, 20 degrees Celsius, and if the examiner is showing that over here the temperature is 30 degrees Celsius and the carbon dioxide concentration was same, then what would be the limiting factor at x? At x, temperature was the limiting factor, because we are increasing the temperature from 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. Therefore at x, temperature was the limiting factor. But what was the limiting factor at y? At y, again, light intensity is the limiting factor, because it is another experiment in which we increase the temperature. So this slant position will always represent x-axis. Okay. Now, okay, then stomata, guard cell, spongy, palisade, mesophyll cell. Now, nitrate ion is essential for making amino acid, which is required for the production of protein. Therefore, if there is deficiency of nitrate ion, then there will be poor, stunted growth. Okay. Now magnesium ion to make chlorophyll, because magnesium ion is constituent element, always write magnesium ion is constituent element for the synthesis of chlorophyll. Deficiency of the magnesium ion will lead to pale yellow leaves, and of course if there are pale yellow leaves, then there will be less photosynthesis, therefore there will be again a poor stunted growth. Now transport and flowering plant, very important chapter. And transpiration. Now define transpiration only as loss of water vapor from the leaf. Okay. Now, and the water vapor that is lost through the stomata of the leaf, it always come from the, always remember, it always come from the intercellular spaces. It comes from the intercellular spaces. Now, I cannot give you the explanation of each and everything. Now, acha, at first what happened, this is the structure of leaf, xylem vessel. It is always be indicated with the double wall. This is the phloem vessel. Now mesophyll cells. Now mesophyll cells lose water continuously and form a thin film of water on its surface. The water evaporate from this, always remember this, evaporate from this thin film of water into the intercellular spaces, and from the intercellular spaces water will diffuse outside through stomata. Now when the water will evaporate from the thin film of lining from the mesophyll cell, then what happen? What happened? The water potential will lower down. Therefore, it will absorb water from the neighboring cell, then the neighboring cell, and eventually from the xylem vessel. In the xylem vessel, the water will move upward because of the capillary action. Fine. And in the xylem vessel, the water it enter from the cortical cells, and the cortical cells will absorb water from the, I'm drawing it over here, from the epidermal cell, the xylem epidermal cell. Some of the epidermal cells of the root, they get modified to form what? Root hair. And the root hair will absorb water from the soil through the process of osmosis. Okay. So through the process of osmosis, water will move inside the root hair cell, and then from the root hair cell, it will gain entry in the cortical cells, and from one cortical cell to another cortical cell. Then it will gain entry into the xylem vessel. In the xylem vessel, the water will move upward through capillary action. In the capillary action, there will be cohesive forces between the water molecule and adhesive forces between the water molecule and the cellulose cell wall, and then from the xylem vessel it will gain entry in the mesophyll cells, and from the mesophyll cell the water will form a thin film of water on its surface, and from the thin film of water it will evaporate into the intercellular spaces, and from the intercellular space it will diffuse outside through the stomata. Now, how the xylem vessel is suited to its function. Its wall are made up of lignin, due to which it will provide mechanical support to the plant. No cell content, therefore there will be continuous movement of water molecule upward without causing any hindrance. Cell join end to end without any cross walls, therefore it will form a long continuous tube without any cross wall, which will help in the uptake of water without causing any hindrance. Okay. Now, diet, you should know about vitamin C and D, calcium and iron, carbohydrate, lipids and protein. Then the human digestive system, it is a very important chapter. The whole this thing is very important, the whole digestion. And then what happened? What is the role of bile? Does bile contain any enzyme? No, bile does not contain any enzyme. Bile only emulsifies fats, that is break down the big fat globules into a smaller fat particle in order to increase the surface area to volume ratio for the action of enzymes. Now you should know about the peristalsis. What is the meaning of peristalsis? Peristalsis is the rhythmic wave-like alternate contraction and relaxation of longitudinal and circular muscles. The circular muscles will always contract behind the food, which will push the food forward. Okay. Then human gas exchange. Now transport in human, pump would be heart, and valves, what is the function of valves? It prevent the backward flow of blood. Double circulation means the blood passes twice through the heart to complete one circuit. This is called double circulation. Low pressure circulation to the lung, which is called pulmonary circulation, and the high pressure circulation to the body tissue, which is called systemic circulation. Why high pressure circulation to the body tissue? Because it has to pump blood with great pressure to the distant region of the body. Distant region, this is the most important point. Whereas why? It is the low pressure circulation for efficient gaseous exchange. For efficient gaseous exchange, number 1 point. And for second point you could write why it is a low pressure circulation, because the lungs lie close to the heart. Now, structure of the mammalian heart. Now, ECG, pulse rate, and listening to sound of valve closing. This is again important. We have discussed it in the class. Now, blood vessels to and from the heart, lungs, liver and kidney. किडनी की तरफ कौन सी ब्लड वेसल जाती है? आपकी रीनल आर्टरी. अवे कौन जाती है? रीनल वेन. लंग्स की तरफ कौन सी जाती है? pulmonary artery. Arteries are the blood vessel carry blood away from the heart. कोई सी भी artery होगी, it will always carry blood away from the heart. तो pulmonary artery, heart को हम कर लेते हैं. Towards the heart कौन जाएगी? आपकी वीना कावा. Away from heart कौन जाएगी? आपकी aorta. Okay, towards the heart आपकी कौन जाएगी? Coronary artery. Coronary artery will supply blood to the heart muscles. Besides that, towards the heart आपकी कौन जाएगी? Pulmonary vein. Because veins are the blood vessel which carry blood towards the heart. और pulmonary artery away जाएगी. Away. Towards. Okay. Okay. Now, disease and immunity, pathogen as a disease-causing organism. Now, role of mosquito as a vector of disease, malarial pathogen, human immunodeficiency virus, how HIV is transmitted, cholera. I made a video on cholera. You can watch this. And then consumption of alcohol, antibiotic, drug as a substance taken into the body that modify or affect the chemical reaction in the body. What is the difference between antibiotic and antibodies? Antibodies are secreted by WBCs in response to antigen, and antibodies are highly specific, and antibodies can kill viruses also, whereas antibiotic cannot kill viruses. Antibiotic are also specific, but antibiotic cannot kill viruses. They can kill bacteria only. ठीक है. अच्छा, active immunity which is against specific antigen, and body produce its own antibody. Body produce antibody. So when the body produces antibody, then it will form what? Memory cells. ठीक है. जबकि passive immunity, what happen in passive immunity? Body and vaccination is a form of active immunity, because over here we provide attenuated pathogen. That means antigens. We are providing antigens. Fine. And whereas passive immunity, in which we provide antibodies, ready-made antibodies are provided. So when we provide ready-made antibodies, then there will be no memory cells formation. And when there will be no memory cells formation, then it will not be long lasting. Not long lasting. ठीक है. Short term होती है, not long lasting. And passive immunity is provided by the breastfeeding, by placenta. Okay. Excretion is the removal of toxic material and waste product out of the body. Now, formation of urea, you know that what happened during the deamination of amino acid. This is a very important topic. RCHNH2 COOH. This is the structure of amino acid. Its amine group will remove and form what? Ammonia. Ammonia is harmful. It will convert into urea, whereas its carboxylic group will convert in and stored as glycogen. Up to some extent it will stored as glycogen, and then it will convert into fat. We know that excess amount of glycogen will always convert into fat. Okay, so this is the role of liver in the assimilation of amino acid by converting them into protein, and then Amino acid will be converted into protein, and what happened to the excess amino acid? It will be deaminated. Okay. Now, coordination and control, nervous system, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, reflex section. There are two different types of reflex section, spinal and cranial reflex section. पूरी videos बनी हुई है, इसको please आप देख लेना उसको. Now, synapses. Synapses means, what is the meaning? Event of synapses. You should know about the event of synapses. Impulses stimulate the release of neurotransmitter molecule from vesicle in the synaptic gap, and then the neurotransmitter molecule diffuse across the gap and bind with receptor protein on the other. For example, now mammalian sense organ में we have eye only, and the whole video is on the eye. Okay. Mammalian hormone, we have two different types of hormone, adrenaline, insulin, glucagon. Adrenaline is released in the situation of anger, fear and fright, whereas glucagon is released when glucose concentration get lower in the bloodstream. Okay, then the glucagon is secreted by the pancreas, and adrenaline is secreted by adrenal gland. Okay, homeostasis is the maintenance of constant internal environment. Negative feedback loop means moving away from the set point, bring changes and then return to the set point. Now, maintenance of constant body temperature, sweating. When the temperature is too high, then the sweat gland will get active and releases sweat, and when the sweat it evaporates, then it removes the latent heat. Always remember all these steps. Shivering, when the temperature gets too low, then the body will start contracting and relaxing, due to which the heat is released, which will maintain the body temperature. And contraction of hair erector muscle, when the temperature is too low, then the hair erector muscle it gets contracted, due to which hair stand up and it traps the body heat and prevent heat loss. Vasodilation and vasoconstriction. Vasodilation of the arterioles near the blood capillaries, it happens when the temperature is too high, and when the temperature is low, then the vasoconstriction will occur, so that less blood flow, less heat loss through conduction and radiation. Whereas in vasodilation, more the blood vessel get dilated, more blood flow, more heat loss through conduction and radiation. Now, need to control blood glucose concentration in the liver, role of liver and pancreas. What happens? Insulin will be secreted, and insulin will convert the excess glucose into glycogen. Insulin is secreted by pancreas, and then the glycogen will be converted by the hormone which is secreted by pancreas, and its name is glucagon. Now, coordination and response in plant. Gravitropism. Gravitropism means movement under the influence of gravity. It's called gravitropism. Now, towards the gravitropism is called positive gravitropism, and away is called negative gravitropism. Now, phototropism, movement towards the light, is called phototropism. Towards the light is called positive phototropism, and away from the light is called नेगेटिव फोटोट्रॉपिज्म. अच्छा, इसमें रोल किसका होता है? मेनली ऑक्सिन का. ऑक्सिन किधर प्रोड्यूस होती है? ऑक्सिन इज प्रोड्यूस्ड एट द रूट टिप और शूट टिप. Then it will diffuse downward if the light is falling from the tip. Then it will diffuse downward, and auxin causes cell elongation. So produce at the tip, diffuse downward, and auxin causes cell elongation. Fine. And if the light is falling from one side, now what happens? The auxin will accumulate in the lower side towards the shaded region. Here it will promote the growth. In the stem, it promotes the growth. Therefore, when it promotes the growth, then this area will bend towards the light, as this area will be inhibited because there is no auxin. Therefore, there will be less growth. So it will move towards the light. Why it will bend towards the light? Because of the accumulation of auxin on the shaded region, and in the stem auxin promotes the growth. Whereas if it is lying downside, let's suppose if it's a plant and if it's a root, then oxygen will accumulate on the lower side, both in the shoot region and both in the root region. Now what happens in the root, it inhibit the growth. So when it inhibits the growth, then what happen, the root will move, this portion will elongate and this portion will not elongate, therefore it will bend downward. Whereas it promotes the growth, therefore this portion will elongate more than this portion, therefore it will bend upward. Clear? So this is what happened when we placed the plant in dark. The shoot will move upward against the gravity, so this is the sign of negative gravitropism. This is negative gravitropism, and this shows positive gravitropism. Now this is positive phototropism. Hope it is clear.